And welcome back to the Unlimited Range podcast. I don't know how you'd say it. This is either episode 25 or it's season two, episode one. We had a debate about that earlier. I don't know if podcasts have seasons. If it is, it's season two, episode one.
Yeah, we've had such a break here. I think it feels like a natural segue into season two. Us learning all the fun stuff about how to do a podcast better. We'll let the audience be the judge of that.
Yeah, so I was about to get into that. I was about to say for all of you folks out there who have been, gripping the edge of your seat, waiting for the Unlimited Range podcast to return for season two, we are here. And we are back. And coincidentally, it's the week the Eagles are in the Super Bowl. But I did want to quickly, I know it's a joke and we don't really have people waiting for us to post an episode, but just a little brief fill in. We did have Christmas. I think we planned on getting back into it sooner than we did. I had our household had a car issue, so we had to go out and get a new car.
And what kind of car did you get?
Yeah, friend, our friend of the show. I don't know if he watches the show. Mr. Kirk. He's a Subaru dealer guy, so he helped us. Made the process pretty easy. So we got a Subaru. So yeah, we had that going on. Actually, like, what was that? 2 days before Christmas. So I think we were on our way back from Cincinnati, on the day before Christmas Eve. And on our way back, obviously the car engine blew, so that baby was toast, and had to find our way back and then do the car thing. So, and then you guys were back and forth between here in North Carolina, and then we got sick over here. I think you guys got sick over there. So yeah, planned on getting back earlier, but we're back now.
Yeah, and we had a nice trip to California. Went to see some
Yeah.
friends in San Diego, and then went to Disneyland. I have never been there, so that was fun to do. And Anaheim Ducks versus the Nashville Predators. Unfortunately, the Predators, like they've done too many times this season, did lose the game. But it was a fun experience going to a different hockey arena. They have some good stuff. I actually think the Preds, in-game theatrics is better than what the Ducks have going on. But the Ducks did pull out the win, and they do have a Stanley League Cup in their rafters as well. So it's kind of a nice thing for them.
Yeah,
But we had a great trip.
that
We
whole
had a
trip
great trip.
seemed, yeah, this trip seemed cool. Um, Yeah, so obviously, fast forward to now. I think it's a little late, day late, dollar short to do Christmas recap. We were talking about this before. I don't really even remember that much. It's been about 2 months, so I don't think high level though. It was a good Christmas. I think we had. I got our group here got to spend Christmas, a little bit of Christmas in Cincinnati, and come back for Christmas Day. It was pretty relaxing, good time, good New Year's Eve, so good holiday season. And fast forward to now, Eagles. I think the bigger thing, the Eagles have been on a tear, um, to in the playoffs, and I would have liked. That's the thing I missed about not being able to do the podcast. We haven't been able to really cover any of that in real time. But what are your
Yeah, I mean,
takeaways so far?
they were. A lot of people thought the Packers were going to win that game, and the Eagles had a strong outing there. And then, L.A. Rams seemed like the team of destiny, and it was a close game. But at the end, the Eagles were able to, thanks to a couple Jalen Carter rushes, get them off the field on downs and win that game and kneel it out. And then complete systematic dismantling of the Washington Commies, in the on my birthday for the NFC Championship. So it was, they are playing well. Feels like they hit a good stride. They've been underdogs, or people have picked against them in most games. They weren't underdogs in the Commies game, but but then again, they're underdogs here in the Super Bowl. And when I saw something the other day about ESPN, everybody was picking the Chiefs to win. So feels like the Eagles are exactly where they want to be.
Yeah, I couldn't agree more. I think it's been a really entertaining playoff run so far. That Rams game was kind of crazy at the end. Actually, I wanted to say quickly, we'll continue the Eagles stuff here because as if you don't know, Eagles are playing in the Super Bowl on Sunday, so it's gonna be a big day. Let's get your trivia question out into the air, and anyone. So this is a new season. This is season two of the Unlimited Range podcast. So I don't know if we're gonna have new viewers coming in the door for this one, but we have been out for 2 months. So for anyone who doesn't know, this is a segment called Dean's Trivia Question of the Week, a limited range style. He's going to give us a question. He's going to ask. We're going to think about it, and he'll circle back at the end of the show, and he'll give us the answer to the question. So you want to lay that on us?
I do. The Super Bowl inspired trivia question this week is: who was the last quarterback to win the Super Bowl on a team that through the season rushed for more yards than they passed for?
All right. So the question is, running team. They're a better running team than they are a passing team, and this
More
quarterback was
prolific.
the this quarterback was the one to get the job dne in the Super Bowl.
Super
And
Bowl.
that's not a, that's either some sort of injury where a quarterback took over mid-year, or that is a team that didn't have a good quarterback to start with. So we will circle back and answer that one at the end here.
Yeah, we
But
might
yeah,
have to go. We might have to give you some hints on this one. This one's I thought was rather challenging, but it is somebody you know. It is a well known to all sports fans. I'll leave it at that for right now.
we'll leave it at that. All right. So we'll answer that one. Come back. Stay tuned at the end of the episode, and we'll get the answer to that question. But yeah, back to the Eagles. You know, I think one of the more interesting things. I think it's kind of twofold. I think it's interesting to think about. On one hand, I am kind of disappointed that the Chiefs made the Super Bowl again, just from kind of the perspective of fatigue. I've seen people talking about fatigue with the Eagles as well, but I don't really understand that. Because outside of winning the Super Bowl in 2017, which was the franchise's first ever Super Bowl, and then making it again in 22, there's a pretty long gap there, and it's not like the Eagles are far from a dynasty. So, I mean, what was the Super Bowl they made against Tom Brady? Was that '05?
Yeah,
And I mean, so between '05 to 17, and I mean, they are in their third since 2017, but we obviously only have one. So I don't really understand that. I do understand it on the Chiefs side of things. I think, regardless of the level of greatness, I think it's kind of annoying to see the same team in there every year. I would have liked to see the Ravens or the Bills kind of pull through. But I said this to you before the playoffs even started. Um, and if we had more viewers, someone could probably clip this and then fire back on me on Monday if the Eagles lose. But I thought all along, um, not just from a revenge aspect, just from a tactical aspect, I've thought the Chiefs are actually the matchup that, uh, as a fan of the Eagles, I would want to see. Ideally, I don't think. I think with Rashi Rice in the lineup, and he's been out since early on in the season. I think with some sort of weapon, Tyreek Hill, or weapons they've had in the past, or guys that are hurt, I think that would be really scary with the defense they have and everything. Um, but as far as offensively, I mean, Travis Kelsey looks like he's on his last leg. They don't really have a true wide receiver threat. Worthy is athletic and he's super fast, and they can do a lot of different stuff with him. But Hopkins, he's aging. Pacheco still looks kind of banged up. He doesn't look like what he looked like early in the season pre-injury. Kareem Hunt. So I just think on paper, and again, it all could change once the game gets started. But I just think on paper, the Eagles fare pretty well against the Chiefs lineup, as opposed to some of what scared me about some other teams is not that I thought that they were better than the Eagles. What intimidated me was, okay, if this game gets off to the wrong type of start, the Eagles are definitely a defensive team that wants to run the ball heavily. And that doesn't necessarily, we've seen that with the Ravens in past years in the playoffs, where they want to run the ball, they want to pound the ground game, they want to play good defense. The game gets away from them a little bit, and then that kind of starts to unravel. And I feel like with the Chiefs and the way the Eagles defense has played all year, um, I think we can do a good job of keeping them in front of us, keeping the game close, and I think that works in our favor. So that's kind of my take on it.
I think the interesting fallout from this Super Bowl is going to be at the quarterback position because I don't think we've ever seen such a dichotomy at the quarterback position as you see in this game. So there's a lot of pundits that put Jalen Hurts, outside the top 10 quarterbacks in the league, and somewhere between 11 and 20. And people firmly just, completely buy into Patrick Mahomes. He's won 4 Super Bowls, three Super
Three
Bowls.
Super Bowls. Yeah, he's won three.
So I mean, and he's clearly head and shoulders, at least with the pundits, beyond Jalen Hurts. I think at almost every other position besides kicker and maybe defensive line, the Eagles have the advantage in receivers, running backs, offensive line, linebackers, defensive backfield. The Eagles have a strong advantage in all those positions. I think you could argue defensive line. So it really boils down to who's going to play the better quarterback position, or bring out the best of the rest of their team. And I think if that's Jalen Hurts that ends up winning this game, or his team wins this game, there's going to be a lot of GMs, I think, really thinking, like, what am I really going to do here? Am I going to mortgage the future for a quarterback, or would I be better served to figure out how to draft, get more draft capital, continue drafting, find someone who plays a reasonable quarterback position, but not necessarily sell the farm on it, or find somebody that's won throughout their careers, because I think that is Jalen's calling card. He's been a winner at every level. So I think that's, to me, the thing here is that we've been preconditioned over the last 10 years to be like, do whatever you can to get the best quarterback, take whatever risks you have, blow up your team, whatever, because you need to have a quarterback. And I think this is, if Patrick Mahomes pulls this off, it clearly, falls into that category of like, yeah, wow, they absolutely have done well because of the quarterback. Because you're right, receivers, all his other offensive weapons and such are not nearly as good as what the Eagles are putting on the field.
Well, and I want to take a moment to I think there's a lot out there right now in regards to I think just the fatigue of seeing the Chiefs in the Super Bowl every year. And certainly, like I said, I'm kind of tired of it. The variety can be exciting. Like, you remember, there's been a few Super Bowls over the last 10, 15 years, for example, where it's like two teams who haven't been there before, haven't been there in a really long time. And that's fun. It's fun. It's fun seeing, like, when the Lions almost cracked it. What was that, last year? And they just barely lost. I think a lot of people were like pumped, like, at the thought of them getting in there. Like, it's just, same way with the Eagles. Everyone was pulling for the Eagles in 17, because the Eagles hadn't been to the Super Bowl since 2005. They'd never won a Super Bowl. So it was like a really, fun, everyone loves that. But I want to say, though, I think there's too much, there's a lot of misinformation. Patrick Mahomes is, I think, firmly planted himself in the conversation for the greatest quarterback of all time. And I'm not doing a thing where I want to argue who's better, who's this, who's that. The guy, the guy just finds a way to win, and there's certainly an element of, like, when the game, he just does not seem to make it's same way with it's the exact same thing that it was with Tom Brady. He's like the second version in my lifetime of Tom Brady. There's just guys that, when the game is on the line, they seem to make the right play. And then I think what happens with that sometimes is, when that occurs, people start looking for things to say about, like, this is why that happened. This is, oh, the refs did this or whatever. And I'm not saying they don't get calls and some of that stuff. He gets superstar treatment. I'm not saying that. But I am saying he elevates his game consistently year in, year out in the playoffs. And he's been doing that since his second year in the league. So I don't want, I'm not a fan of the whole, like, they basically cheated to get here thing, because I think it takes away from the matchup at hand. And that was my response to your statement. I think, although you could argue maybe there's fatigue with this matchup, I think the interesting storyline here is, you have two quarterbacks in this game that are just high level winners, and you can kind of try to dissect it any way you want. But Jalen Hurts wins games. He just wins games, and Patrick Mahomes just wins games. And what I don't hear people talking about enough is that Super Bowl from 2 years ago was a phenomenal game. Obviously, the Eagles didn't come out on the right side of that, but, um, that was a phenomenal game, and I think you have the 2 best teams in the league in this game, the 2 most complete teams. So, I'm looking forward to that, and I'm really excited about the Barkley component of it. I think his run in the playoffs has just been, you don't usually I think you don't often feel like in the moment you're watching something that you've never seen before or that's just like historic. And I do think that's what we're watching with Barkley right now. The run he's on, some of the runs he's had. I mean, that Washington game could have gone a different direction. Washington had what a 17-18 play drive to start that game.
Yep.
Um, they only got 3, but it was like, okay, they're here, and they were playing really well up to that point. They dismantled the Lions, who, regardless of the injuries, is a good football team, obviously, and they just took them apart. And then they started out hot in that game, and it's just like you're watching something off a documentary in real time. First play, and it wasn't like like he's going off, he's running off the left side. You're like, oh my gosh, that's a nice game, and then boom, he like spins out of it and he's on it, and then it was just that it was pretty much all she wrote after that. um
Yeah,
so
I mean,
I just
there's a couple things within that game, like Jalen Hurts made an audible to that first run of the game, which I think again is something that doesn't get noticed or talked about a whole lot. And that fourth down call when they threw the deep ball to AJ Brown, that really kind of broke it open before halftime. It was a 14-12 game, and it was a 4th and 3, and they threw a go ball to AJ Brown, and Jalen read it instantly and threw the right pass right on the money, and it was so. I was
Can I give
impressed
you my
with.
take on can I give you my I didn't really respond well to your first thing you said. I want to give my take on the Jalen Hurts thing because I've been critical of him at times, but I think there's a missing element to what people don't understand about Jalen Hurts, and that is anyone who's ever been on a team, um, and maybe it would help if you were on like a winning team, a good team. Anyone who's ever been on a winning team, of any kind, I'm not talking like college, pro. I'm just saying like maybe you played high school basketball. Um, that there is something besides talent that contributes to a winning culture. And I think I've told you this before. I vividly remember when he got pulled from the Bama game as a starting quarterback, and Tua ended up winning that game, which effectively meant he was going to have to leave Alabama. He got his job taken from him on national television as probably like what, a 19, 20-year-old kid. And to
Yep.
make matters worse, that guy came in the game when they were down in the game, brought them back, won the game. Um, and if you've ever met a 19 or myself at 19 or 20 years old, I would have probably um, gotten pissed off, probably, had my head in my hands, and I probably would have felt sorry for myself, and I probably would have just mailed it in. And he coached him up every time Tua came to the sideline. They showed the camera. He was coaching him up. He was showing him what to do. He was helping him, see. And Tua hadn't played a college football game at this point. And then after the game, he didn't duck the media. He didn't make excuses. He just was simply, a team player from start to finish, even through that. And that's just who he is. That's just who he is. And so sometimes he takes a sack and he holds the ball for like 10 minutes and he does whatever. I'm like, what the hell? But at the end of the day, being a winner is a real thing, and that matriculates. I think in some of these other situations, you see like a guy's not getting the ball and he gets all pissy. But when that starts with the most important guy on the field, when the most important guy on the field does not care if he throws for 120 yards because you win the game, um, that matters a lot. And that's the part I think I wouldn't say he's a pure top, like you said. I would not firmly put him in the top 10 in terms of just quarterback play. I wouldn't do that. I think I can quickly name, I don't know, 7, 8 guys I think who are better than him at throwing the football, at just playing the quarterback position. But as far as winning goes, as far as being a culture setter, as far as, doing and saying the right things and leading, I don't think there's 2, 3 guys in the league that do it better than him.
He's the first quarterback in 35 years to lose his initial Super Bowl and come back for a second Super Bowl.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, I
35 years.
think
Jim Kelly is the last one to do that. And we know how it went down for Jim Kelly, but nobody would dispute kind of quarterback Jim Kelly was. Yeah, I don't know.
well,
Like,
and
here's the thing.
there's all kinds of stuff.
But hold on a second. If you're building a team, it's easy to say, well, give me Joe Burrow, give me Josh Allen, Lamar Jackson, whoever. Let's throw out Patrick Mahomes because he's clearly won a bunch. But none of those ever guys playing in this league at this point have won anything. So,
Well, and I want to
that's
be clear too. I don't hold it against guys, and by saying this about Jalen Hurts, I don't hold it against the guys who play at a phenomenal level and the team just isn't in position to win. Like, I think Joe Burrow was unbelievable this year, and offensively they were just a force. And I don't hold it against him that their ownership, their management, whatever, couldn't figure it out on defense, and they basically didn't have a single player you would ever have heard of besides Trey Hendrickson. I don't hold that against those guys, but I'm saying the commentary leading into this game and this week has all been about, well, he's just a merchant of Hurts is a merchant of the system and everything else. But you know, my uh, I guess retort to that would be like, one, who cares? And two, you know, there are certainly quarterbacks. There has been we have witnessed guys in the league at the highest level. Ego is part of what gets you to an elite status as an NFL player, as an NBA player. Ego is involved when you're talking about people at the highest level of sports. And for a guy to basically have no ego when it comes to personal statistics, awards, all that other thing, and just truly say it and mean it that he wants to win games, and that is his primary focus, and then back that up. Um, that is a critical part of why they are here, and that is a critical part. And for Eagles fans, I think everyone knows that's kind of what went wrong with the Wentz thing. That's kind of what started the Wentz thing downhill, is that he had a huge ego. I think his ego was very bruised that Nick Foles came in on that run and won them a Super Bowl. And and that kind of started the downward spiral because, winning what he felt like he didn't win the game, and that mattered a lot to him. And obviously that had kind of a devastating impact on the team. And then you've got the exact opposite of that in a guy in Jalen Hurts. And I think that's important to the team.
Yeah, I mean, I think it's just like concussions, where it's an injury that you can't see, right? And I think the emotional side of everybody's makeup is something you can't see. And Carson Wentz had a very fragile makeup. He still does. I still think he's one of the best, potentially skilled physical quarterbacks that has come into the league in the last 10 years. And so is
Well,
Josh Allen. But
in another,
but at
in an,
some point, those things, whether they're tangible or intangible, make a difference in whether you win or lose. And I don't think Jared Goff. I have a hard time seeing Jared Goff ever win all the way through the Super Bowl. And there's a lot of
well,
other
in
players, Justin Herbert. Like, there's a number of them that have more skills than Jalen Hurts. I don't see ever even. I'm not sure they'll ever make a Super Bowl. I mean, Jared Goff was the reason they didn't make the Super Bowl last year.
Well, and the
So
other thing with Jalen Hurts too, I think, is that a lot of people say this, but then they don't really know what it means. A lot of people talk about how, like, well, this guy, you know, wait till January because this guy turns it on in the playoffs, but then when the season's going on, they kind of forget that Jalen Hurts is in that category, where I as much as there was some frustration to the way the offense looked throughout the year, throughout the regular season at times. Um, once the playoffs start, you just trust him. You just like the way he elevated his play in that Super Bowl run they made a couple years ago. And honestly, outside of that fumble, we talked about this. Outside of that fumble in that Super Bowl, I mean, it's revisionist history. It doesn't matter, but I think they go on to win if that doesn't happen. And he played. It's already being forgotten. He played one of the better games, certainly in recent history, for a quarterback in a Super Bowl. So, yeah. So I think A lot of interesting storylines. I'm excited for the game. Let's give a quick. Why don't you give your quick prediction for the game?
I think I don't think it's going to be a Chiefs blowout. I think I think the Chiefs are going to have a hard time getting past 24 points. And I think that makes me feel like the Eagles should be able to win this. Being on turf, being in the Superdome, I think is a significant advantage for the Eagles. And they've played there. They've played a number of times, and they've played well in that building. And no sloppy field and stuff this time that I think Kansas City fans will say like, well, that hurt us too. But I think it really messed up the pass rush and some things. And so I do see that. I think the Eagles win this by a touchdown. We'll say
Yeah,
31-24.
yeah. I think it's being thrown around out there a lot. The Chiefs haven't scored 30 points in a game besides I think like the AFC Championship game. Um, I do think it's going to be a good game. I think it's going to be tight. Chiefs are a championship pedigree team, so I think this one's going to be tight. But um, like you, I think the Eagles are going to be able to run the ball. I think I'm not worried as much about any of the statistics or anything like that because I think this Eagles offensive line is just one of the better lines in a long time, and I think they're going to be able to run the ball. I think they're going to be able to keep the chains moving. I think defensively, my one thing would be can we the one question I have is we've been dominant at turning the ball over on the defensive end, but Patrick Mahomes does not really turn the ball over in the playoffs. So I think can we turn them over one or two times, and can we limit some big plays like in the last Super Bowl they had like I said the fumble. We had the fumble. They had the big punt return. So they had, I would say they had the momentum swinging plays that kind of you look to and turn the game. So I think if we can do more of that and then play good defense and run the ball, I'd like to say a touchdown, but I'll take a 1 point win. But I do truly think the Eagles are going to get it done.
Well, and I think a couple things have been made too much of. One is Nick Fangio's record against Kansas City. I mean, the teams that Nick Fangio was coaching defense for were absolute garbage. I think it's because it says that he's 0-8 against Patrick Mahomes. Well, I think in 4 of those games, the team's offense didn't score 10 points. So I think that's crazy. And I don't think Nick Fangio's had a defense with this much talent in a long time. So I think that was, and then for some reason, Nick Wright, who has been renamed for Philadelphia Eagles fans as Nick Wrong, has hated on the Saquon Barkley thing since they picked him up in free agency. He's like, well, he's never going to run for that much yardage against Kansas City. I don't know where he's coming up with that because James Cook ran for a lot of yards. Joe Mixon ran for a lot of yards. And, Saquon, I don't see any reason to think that he's not going to run for 6-7 yards a carry. And, a couple things out there. If he runs for 30 yards, which seems to be pretty easy for him to do, barring injury, he'll have the single most rushing yards in the season, passing Terrell Davis. And he's actually got an outside chance of hitting 3,000 all-purpose yards for the season, including the playoffs, which would be a record that would hang around for a long, long time.
Yeah, it's
It's
been fun. It's been regardless of the result on Sunday. I think watching him and we're Penn State fans, and especially at that time when he was there, and so it's kind of cool to see him playing for the Eagles and doing what he's doing, and by all accounts, I think he's a world class guy from what it sounds like. So
yeah,
easy guy
don't
to
forget.
root for.
Yeah, don't forget what the Giants owner said when he was walking out of the room. He said, "I won't be able to sleep at night if we lose that guy." But it was, or that guy goes to the Eagles. But he also said, and he's also the best guy in our locker. And
Yeah, I think he's
I've heard that from his Penn State days all the way through his Giant days, and actually with the Eagles, and it's pretty clear that he is a standout individual, a guy you want on your team, and I don't think anybody would like to see it more than us of him to cap this one off with an excellent Super Bowl, whatever that looks like.
Yeah, and then there's a couple Eagles guys who it may be their last run in this one. Certainly, I think Brandon Graham.
He said
You
today
know,
it's it.
yeah, I would assume that's it. And he might even get to suit up, which would be cool. He had the probably the biggest play to date in Eagles history with the strip sack of Tom Brady in the Super Bowl we won. And he's a good guy. He's been a consistent Walter Payton Man of the Year award guy. Some other guys that may not be there last year, but it may be one of the last times we're seeing them play at an elite level. I mean, Lane Johnson's getting older, things like that. So, yeah, I'm really looking forward to this one. And it should be a really great game. And anytime the Eagles are in the Super Bowl, I see some people talking about, I've seen some people on the internet talking about like, well, the Eagles just won one in 17 and, or they went back there and it's like, to me, it doesn't, there's nothing like the first one. Um, well, I mean, I guess I was like 6 when the Eagles went, but I was too young to remember. And I think I went to bed at halftime. Like 17, I consider kind of the first one for me to like witness. And then obviously winning one, I don't think it gets more exciting than that, but it's only a notch down for this one because it never stops being exciting because you never know how long it's going to be until you get to go to another one.
Yeah, yeah, and I think Kansas City, with everything they're trying to prove for the three-peat, makes it does add to the fire. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, I was going to, I had a fan viewership question of the week. I'm going to hold that one till next week, but why don't we circle back with your trivia question answer? So you're
Last
hit us with your question again.
last quarterback to win the Super Bowl with a team that rushes for more yards than they passed for.
Well, I had an initial answer. Wait, the question is the team, not the quarterback rushed for more, right?
It's you can give me either one.
So the quarterback rushed for more yards than he passed for?
No. The team rushed for. He was a quarterback
Oh,
on the team that rushed for had more yards
okay.
rushing than passing yards.
Okay. Well, you kind of threw me off because I had an answer, and then you said it was somebody that most people would know, and the person I was going to do probably wouldn't fit into that criteria. Um, yeah, I mean, I don't have a great answer because you thinking maximum of probably like 3,000 rushing yards, and that would even be high. Um, so getting to a super, my initial instinct would be Ben Roethlisberger, uh, one of those Ben Roethlisberger Steelers teams.
Um, no, you got to go quite a few yards. You got to go many years before that. So, if you think about when the passing game really came into its own, what team do you think about?
Well, I'm thinking about the Hogs.
Well, I think the person I think changed the passing game was Bill Walsh when he came in and started doing the West
Yeah,
Coast offense, and Paul Brown. He's the Paul Brown influence and everything else like that. So this was pre Bill Walsh, which
yeah,
was early. So it was the Pittsburgh Steelers, Terry Bradshaw. That's
yeah.
how
Those
far.
guys are.
That's how far we're going back. 45 plus years to
Yeah, I mean,
when
it'd be
the.
pretty hard because I mean, if you were throwing for, I mean, like a 3,000 yard passing season, anything below that threshold would be pretty hard to imagine in any type of modern sense that you'd be able to get to a Super Bowl doing that unless you were
Well,
rushing
that's
for
why
an
when
insane
like
amount of
Dan
yards.
Marino came in, in '83 and threw for like 4,800 yards or whatever he threw. I guess it was '84 he did that, but when he came in, like that just turned the league on its head. I mean, like that's
Yeah, not enough people talk about that. Marino did that in the '80s, and the first person to throw for 5,000 again was Drew Brees.
yeah.
There was a solid 20 something year gap between those things happening, and even today, it's still not that common. It's been done since, but not. It's not like it's something that's done all the time. He was
Gosh,
definitely ahead of his time in that regard.
yeah. I mean, that's basically 300 yards a game. So I mean,
Yeah,
that's every game. So that's
Bears have never had
it
a
was
4,000 yard passer.
it's
Do you know
it was
that?
Terry. No, I didn't.
Yeah,
I didn't.
The Bears are the last team in the league that's never had a 4,000 yard passer.
I think. Well, interestingly, like if you go back and look at
That would
the
have been one of my
quarterbacks.
possible answers for that. Would be the Walter Payton Bears. I wonder what
No.
the I wonder what the splits were on that. It
Yeah.
had to have been close.
Yeah, you would think so, but yeah, I mean, or yeah, but I mean, like to win a Super Bowl, right? So I think that's the Bears probably in some of those years didn't, but Jim McMahon was actually a key difference maker for them on that team.
Yeah, I think they actually did have a little bit more of a passing game in '85 when they won. Actually, yeah. So your answer to the trivia question: more rushing yards and passing yards is going to be one of the Terry Bradshaw Steelers teams. So
Yeah,
that's big, and they won what, 4 of them?
they won four.
Yeah,
Yeah,
they were a dominant team back then.
but I think
Um,
none after 79 or 80. I think the last one they may have won was the 79 season.
yeah, before like the modern era. Um, Yeah. All right. Well, that wraps us up. We have a big game this weekend that we're looking forward to. Gave our predictions for that one, and I think we're going to try to, now that season two's kicked off, I think we're going to try to get back to weekly uploads on our YouTube channel. So hopefully y'all haven't forgot about us or unsubscribed. If so, go ahead and resubscribe back to the channel because we'll be uploading regularly from here on out back in season two. Got anything?
Yeah,
Got anything for the fans before we let them go?
go Birds.
Go Birds! Big game for the Eagles this weekend. All right, guys, this is Unlimited Range Podcast, season two, episode one, and we're wrapping it up here. And we will see you back next week.